So in my opinion, the only reason, possibly the only reason to use Krista, now that factions are in, and there are even more options for Lars. There are even more options to include Lars and various other teams. Aside from Krista's violent ability, I think she's the absolute worst hero in the game.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
So yesterday we were talking about the best healer, right? We were having that healer discussion. Nobody agreed to anything, right? Because I'm talking at you guys. We're not actually figuring anything out. But I decided, and I think generally a lot of people feel the same way, that Martha is the absolute best healer on Hero Wars Facebook and web. Not only because of her average utility across most teams, but also because of her necessity in Osh fights, in Seymour fights, in specific event boss fights. Martha is invaluable, just incredibly invaluable to have leveled up. If not the best healer, then certainly tied for or in the top 3. And then during that discussion, I don't know who it was, but somebody mentioned something about Krista. And that got me really thinking about the Chaos faction. Now we know that this is not final, but we're pretty sure that this is final. Astaroth, Cleaver, Lilith, Peppy, Dorian, Zisha, Jorgen, Lars, Krista. The twins are an effective combo. Very effective. And this conversation is probably a little bit more on the mobile side of things than Facebook and web, although it probably does carry over to both platforms. So we're just going to kind of discuss it as though we're talking about both. The heroes are not different between Facebook and mobile. The only real addition is the Ascension plus, 10 levels of stats, 10 levels of glyphs, and the pet. You have this area of effects, low magic attack modifier ultimate. You have this magic defense reduction, low magic attack modifier ability. You have this ability right here that really only works if you have Lars. Very, very low magic attack damage modifier, 12%. And then finally, crystallization. Now, crystallization, while being one of the downsides of Krista in that she's out of the fight part of the time, is actually a huge upside and possibly the only saving grace for Krista in all of the options. Before tribes were added, before factions were added, there wasn't many opportunities for Krista outside of Lars. Now, there are various team options you can do with the twins. Lots of twins teams you can go with, both on Facebook, web, and mobile, right? But there was a lot of Lars team options, right? There are a lot more options for Lars without Krista than there are for Krista without Lars. Now, there are some heroes, I should say. There are some heroes that do big damage in single hits. Krista's ice block, her violent ability, actually will prevent your team from losing a hero immediately from one of those big hits, right? You think about Cornelius. Like a buffed Cornelius cannot one-hit Krista. No matter how hard he tries, Krista, when in danger of taking major damage, Krista summons an ice block that protects the caster for 2 seconds by partially absorbing any incoming damage. Now, this blocks 50% of damage, and it's very difficult for Cornelius to get strong enough to one-hit Krista. Very difficult. Very difficult. You might have to have a solid armor penetration or two. Armor penetration plus some attack bonuses for Cornelius, which is possible. It is possible. It's definitely possible that you can do it. You've got, who is it? Zisha. You got Zisha's big hit. Attacks the enemy with the lowest magic defense. This could be hitting Krista. This could one-hit an enemy, but it wouldn't one-hit Krista. So in my opinion, the only reason, possibly the only reason to use Krista, now that factions are in, and there are even more options for Lars. There are even more options to include Lars and various other teams. Aside from Krista's violent ability, I think she's the absolute worst hero in the game. Very, very specific niche cases is she valuable. Very, very specific. You need an additional frontline tank. Maybe use her. I don't know. You need to stack a magic attack artifact and you are out of magic attack heroes to use. Maybe use her. You just really like the aesthetic of her. If Undead got new members on faction, which is Karkin on, so it works for considering. Dev said something about it in a message to player in Discord. Her tech doesn't seem to work on everyone. Iris is a nightmare for Krista. Most of Krista's abilities are completely negated by Iris. You're right. Most of Krista's abilities are completely negated by Iris. Worse than Heidi? Yeah, worse than Heidi. Heidi has great options. Great options. I mean, you could just compare some of Heidi's skills. So 5 ice attacks at 25% plus 50. I mean, this is going to be a bad comparison. 50% for 3 seconds plus 150. So I think that Heidi's ultimate by itself is better. It doesn't rely, like, none of this really relies on another hero. 70% magic attack. Look at all this pure damage. Blind, pure damage. You have this magic dodge ability in the spy camo. Leave her unleveled. Twins are a great attack team. Okay. I just feel like Krista's the worst hero. And any argument that anybody has, it's so easy to me to just knock down. So that's probably going to be something that I'm going to explore heavily explore whenever we get faction brawls. Faction brawls are going to be so huge, guys. Faction brawls is going to be amazing. You know they're going to lock faction brawls behind something, right? It's going to be expensive to do more than like 5 a day. It's going to be dumb. It's going to be so dumb. Is Artemis useful? Sure. She's a damage dealer. She's a physical attacking damage dealer. She's not reliant on really anybody else.